Hey everybody, it's Kathryn, Elevated Consciousness Coach. And if you're wondering why everything is breaking down, falling apart, collapsing, this just stops working, I'm going to give you the skinny on this through the perspective of timelines, specifically higher timelines, and I'm going to try to do it in 5 minutes or less. So, timelines are funded through human energy. Time is a completely 3D human construct, meaning it is through the energy of humans that funds timelines into existence. When we pay attention to something, that is how we fund the energy of a timeline. So you might think of a timeline as your life, your lifetime, your life up until now. You were born, you were raised in a certain area, you went to school, you went to college, you got married, you had kids. That's your particular personal timeline. We also have planetary timelines. So there are two major ways of translating time on this planet. We have our own personal timeline, and then we have a planetary timeline, otherwise known as a collective timeline, meaning the entire human family contributes to a collective planetary timeline. This is where we have a kind of collective agreement that reality is a certain way. Just like you have a reality agreement with your own personal timeline, this is my reality, this is the way things are, so too do we have a collective agreement going on that funds a planetary timeline and kind of where we collectively agree, like, this is reality as it exists for human beings on this planet at this time, okay? So your next question might be, well, how do we fund timelines then? Got it, Kathryn. We got personal timelines, we have planetary timelines. How do we fund them? Through our attention, energy, and focus. In other words, what you believe, the certain beliefs that you hold, thoughts that you habitually think about the nature of reality, that's what funds a timeline to be a certain way. So, if something shifts within that, your thoughts change. Maybe one of your very rigidly held beliefs starts to shift, and what you perceive previously as the nature of your reality now has changed. It has moved, it has shifted. This creates a potential situation known as a timeline jump. So again, this can happen for us personally, it can happen for us collectively. Personally, it's kind of easy to do. We stop thinking a certain way about our lives, we stop believing certain things about ourselves, we start opening up maybe a fixed way of thinking about our reality, and we start to be more open to new potentials. Collectively, it's a little trickier, though not really. We have to have a shift in mass consciousness where we start believing differently about the nature of reality. A really good example is what happened in 2020 when the whole world experienced an upheaval. We got uprooted from our normal everyday reality, and we started maybe thinking differently about the world, started having maybe different beliefs about the nature of our reality. And it kind of uprooted our senses, it uprooted our old beliefs, ways of thinking about the way things should be or have been on this planet, how they might be going forward. That creates a collective timeline shift. So let's really lay it down here. When either of these things happen, something changes in your personal timeline, something shifts in the collective timeline. It's like saying, there is no longer energy, attention, or focus to support the previously held timeline, and so there has to be a new one that takes over. And that means that a lot of things that were present in the reality of that previous timeline no longer have the energy to be supported in the new one. So a really good example of how this shows up in physical reality to prove to us that we're moving or shifting to a different timeline is things start to break. They break down, they collapse, things fall apart. Mechanical things, tools. It could even be your favorite dish, your favorite coffee cup in your house. Maybe an old picture. I remember when I had an experience of shifting a timeline, a picture that was just sitting on my shelf in my old house seemingly jumped off the shelf and just broke. The glass shattered. All of these things are clues. It's like breadcrumbs from the universe letting us know that we have shifted a timeline. So my question to you is, what's breaking in your life. This could even be relationships. It could be the way we relate to other people. It could even be relationships we've had for a long time with our family, with our friends, etc. But it can often show up as things like your garage door opener just stops working and you can't really figure out why. Or maybe you've worn a watch for a really long time and it just won't work anymore. You put a new battery in, it still doesn't work. Or you might notice time jumps or time skips, meaning you'll lose time. Or it seems like you're adding time somewhere and you don't know how that happened. These are all quote unquote normal things that we notice that are like breadcrumbs from the universe saying, hey, you've shifted a timeline. So I think I've done a fairly good job of going just over 5 minutes and giving you the lowdown on all this, but maybe you want to share with me in the comments what you're noticing about shifting timelines. These are all ways that we're unconsciously shifting timelines, but we can consciously jump or shift timeline avatars. And that's what I'm going to be sharing next week, starting the 10th of April. And we're going to do this for 12 different quantum timeline jumps, visiting intentionally and consciously different aspects of you, exploring ways of reality that you would like to have in your life right now. And I'm going to give more info in the comments on that.